o'clock.
Yes,
Showtime.
I know. And you got to talk right into here. Straight in like this.
9, 8.
Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple of things I want to make a note. Everybody have a good Easter? Was the bunny good to you? Okay. It's been announced that J.R. Hilderman will be driving for Dennis Reinbold in the second car. That's good to hear. And there's only one opening left for an entry in the 500. There's only one left, and they only got a short time in which to get it done. So be interesting to see. And there's an open test tomorrow at the Speedway. The admission is free. You pay at the door. And the grandstand and the short chute between 1 and 2 and the viewing mounds are open, so if you get a chance, get on out there. And in case you weren't aware, the IndyCar Grand Prix is next on the list. It's May the 11th. Make sure you get out there. It's going to be a good race. And if you didn't see it, Connor Daly unveiled his Andretti Autosport U.S. Air Force car today. It is pretty sharp. Really quite interesting car. So looking forward to it. And my next scheduled guest for next week, I haven't heard to the contrary, will be the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mr. Doug Bowles. I want to remind you, if you need a dentist, there's only one to go to, the Indy Dental Group, Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis. Great practice, great people. Make an appointment, 317-846-6125. And if your computer dies on you, do what I do, because mine does quite frequently. I think it's a nut behind the handle. You can talk to Jack at Computer Overdrive. The number is 317-328-0766. And if you haven't subscribed to Trackside Online, you're making a mistake. You get all the information from the teams, all the PR, everything that's going on. Everybody talks to them because they tell a straight story. So check it out. TracksideOnline.com and subscribe. It's not that expensive, and you'll get all kinds of information. My first guest is a gentleman that I'm very pleased to say it only takes an email and a few weeks or a month and a half, and he's here. He is the CEO of Hallman and Company, which is the owner of, among other things, Clabber Girl, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and IndyCar. Please welcome the man in charge, Mr. Mark Miles. You were telling me that you made a mistake doing it because you could be home now having a nice steak, a nice iced tea.
I didn't say anything like that.
I know. I lied. But I appreciate you coming because in order to be a guest on the program, you got to be here. So, and you take the time, and I appreciate it.
All right, let me correct the record. Where'd you get this? There's only one more entrant possibility.
That's what it said today. I read that on...
No, that's not true. That's
fake
what
news.
It said.
That's what it said. There's only one.
Well, I don't care what it said.
And
It's not true.
Schmidt-Peterson has it.
We got 36 in. We've got, I know of 3 teams all working on one more. I'm not saying we'll get that. I don't think that's probably too much. But, it's not inconceivable we could have 38, for example. So stay tuned. We'll see how high is up.
Okay. Are you pleased with what things are doing in the 2019 season? Are you moving ahead from 2018? Are things looking good? Is the television coverage what you liked? Is the gold package, NBC Gold, is everything working the way you wanted, and is it moving upward?
Well, everything is too broad. When in life did you ever have everything exactly the way you wanted? But we feel really good about how most things are going. So if you want to talk about to this point in the 2019 season, there were 4 teams in St. Pete that weren't part of IndyCar in 2017, so that's cool. We've had 4 different winners, and it's a battle between really young guys, the youngest ever, and veterans, and 4 different team owners have won. We talked a minute ago about how we were both in St. Petersburg, and it's just a sensational event. And the last two prior years, they've set records for their attendance, and this year was a record over the last two. So it continues to grow and really represent the series very well. I thought COTA was great. It was different. One of the things I liked about it was hearing from fans in the UK, which I think we could take as an example. We're talking about this with somebody here a minute ago. So we licensed the IndyCar rights in the UK to Sky, and we're running on Sky Formula One. And if you sort of tried to summarize fairly, most of the feedback we got from Formula One fans, it was, I've been a Formula One fan my whole life. I'll always be a Formula One fan. It's the pinnacle of everything technical. I used to think IndyCar was kind of, ladder series. Man, this racing is fun. So that's exactly kind of the feedback that we'd hope to get, and I think they're right. And so then two other races, and Barber was great. Long Beach was bigger this year than last year, so I think that's, I don't know how many years of solid growth. And NBC, who have been working very, very hard, we can say that the television audience over the four races is 21% higher than it was a year ago. So really good results so far.
Speaking of having television on Sky over in England, I read a lot of comments that Canada can't get it. Why is that?
Well, they can get it. Let me before I get specific, let me say this. Again, you and I sort of touched on it. It's not like when you're licensing your television rights that you wake up one day and say, well, we'd like to have all these things on this broadcaster, on this schedule, this way. And oh, by the way, pay us whatever we want you to pay us. It's a negotiation. And, it's a market question as to what you can achieve. In Canada, we could not achieve the same amount of free-to-air coverage this year that we had last year. It wasn't available to us. So it's very available on different platforms, but you have to pay something for it. And, we got some of that feedback about NBC Gold, although personally I believe it's well worth the price. We've gotten some of that feedback from Canada, but it's not like we wanted to say to fans, we expect you to do whatever we want done. This was the best exposure we could get right now in Canada. There are two telecoms that are the big TV providers, and they have their own issues, and they've dropped other sports. It's been a tough time for sports that are not primarily Canadian sports in Canada.
I'll be darned. Now there's a test tomorrow, the first of the 2019 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I understand, and I don't know where I got this necessarily, but somebody said and I saw there was supposed to be 28 cars there, that only full-time teams can participate. If you're Dennis Reinbold or whoever might be running, one-shot deals, they're not allowed there. Is that true?
So, Don, how many cars are on the grid this year at IndyCar?
Well, there was 24.
22, 23, 24.
Yeah.
And you just said there's 28 tomorrow.
I don't know. That's what I read.
So does it follow that only full-time teams can be out there?
That was my comment, but I said, well, the man in charge is going to be here. I'll query. And I did.
Yeah, I actually don't know exactly, but I think they're going to be like 20, several more than are the 23 that are.
So it's open to any car that's going to run the 500 can come here.
I think that's right, and there are just a few that aren't ready yet. But we're really looking forward to it. Hoping that we get great weather. 11-1, the veteran drivers will be on the track. 1-3, rookies and refreshers, and then 3-6, everybody, weather permitting. So it's free, as you already said correctly.
Yes.
Come out, and it's really available. You take a right when you come in the Turn 2 tunnel. I mean, the Gate 2 tunnel. Go over on those mounds. By the way, the folks from Gateway, which some of you have attended, are going to be here, and they're going to be, I don't know exactly, I don't want to say giving away tickets, but at least promoting tickets. So I think there'll be some special offers out there for those who want to see this test and then get to our oval race in St. Louis.
Well, I'll have to put the arm on him because Chris Blair will be here. I'll see if I can't kind of twist his arm before he gets to the track.
I'll bet you'll be okay.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, your sports background has been very varied. I mean, tennis, and the Super Bowl, and the boards and things you've been on. Where does IndyCar racing fit in the things that you've done? As one of the most difficult, one of the most rewarding, one of the most... I know I've talked to a couple of tennis players, and they said before he came in, I'd make 150, 200,000. I said, really? He said, now I don't have to work anymore, thanks to Mark.
I can't imagine having more fun than I'm having right now. It's first of all, for me, it's home, and that's pretty special. And in a way, it feels like kind of the culmination of doing sports things that were big events and then running a league, even though in another sport. That was very international. This is primarily U.S. and North American, but obviously has international reach. And so I feel really, really happy in this role. And the most fun thing is having at least a little bit of a role in trying to make it grow and make it better. And when you get good feedback about that, it's satisfying.
Well, I will say one thing. Anybody's listening or watching, if you see Mark somewhere and you have a question or a comment, he'll talk to you. There was a time in the past when they'd see somebody coming, they'd turn around and go the other way. You don't hide from anybody. The same with Jay. If he's available, you want to talk to him, he'll talk to you, which is, I think, really neat. And I got to tell you, two long-time race fans and participants, actually, were my guests last week. And I asked the question, how do you think IndyCar is doing and how is it heading? And they both said, superb. It's going great, and they're heading back to where we were 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, but one of them was a lawyer, right?
Well, I was watching to see if his lips moved, and they didn't, so I figured he wasn't lying. Now, there's been talk going around lately that three of the major teams, Roger, Chip, and Mike Andretti, want to set it up starting next year that all full-timers get automatic and qualify for the 500. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, how many think that's a great idea?
Don't be so loud now. Don't be so loud.
Look, if you make the investment to run a full-time team and you could get straight in and be assured a spot in the 500, you'd be happy with that. And I understand that, but that's only part of the equation. It's not what the 500 has been about, right? And one of the things we try to think through, we always have to think about all the stakeholders and understand everybody's perspective. But, and we got to have teams, and we value the guys you just talked about. But we value the fans first. And, for the Indianapolis 500-mile race, we think the bumping is really important. And, by the way, I love the Star, but I think the Star has made a little bit more of this of late than it is. Yes, those three team owners have all said they would prefer that they have a locked, not just they, but the Leader Circle owners have a sure spot on the grid for the 500, but they're not screaming at us. They understand. They've all, Michael and Roger have been on the wrong end of bumping, and they understand what it's about, and they understand how painful and it can be costly, but how dramatic it makes that weekend. And they understand, by the way, the bumping session on Sunday, I hope everybody understands what's going to happen on the second day to fill the last roll. Now we know there'll be at least 6 cars trying to get in, and that's going to be followed by setting the pole in the first 3 rows. That's all going to be live on NBC. Ask NBC what they think. They want drama, and it's part of the show.
Right. And I think the drama that they will have on Saturday is 30 cars trying to make the show, and not 25 sitting there yawning, say, well, it's not a big deal. We're in. Well, 33 fastest cars. I've been coming here since 1962, and it's been, except for 1 year, that's been it. And I think that's
Only
fun.
since '62. Where are you from?
Chicago. It took a long time to walk here. Were you an IndyCar fan or a 500 fan before you accepted this position?
Well, I grew up here. I was
Yeah.
born here, so I've always been a 500 fan. Much more so than IndyCar, to be frank. But as soon as I got closer to it and understood, got to know drivers and team owners and team members, it sort of gets in your blood, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm still here. And I should have quit a long time. Don't say anything. Just I get good guests. That's my fault, except for Howard back there. You know, do you find that the IndyCar drivers, as I do, and most of us here, are very approachable and very cooperative? If you need them to do something and they're available, they'll do it.
Yeah, more than that. I've said, sitting here before, I wouldn't trade this group of athletes for any sport, period. They're not just cooperative and happy to help. They're smart. They're, you know, what they actually do in those cars is unbelievable. They're athletic. They're equally good at going to, I can take somebody to New York and go to Wall Street reception or the Children's Hospital. And they aren't only good at it, they care about it. So, no, I think they are phenomenal, and it's really hard to find one I don't like. They're really good people.
Well, I'm not going to look for any because you're probably right. Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed in looking back at your career, looking over, not back because you're still around, that you've had the innate ability to get the right people in the right place. When you came in, I got all kinds of emails. What in the world does he know about racing? You don't have to. You need to understand and then get the right people to do the job. And boy, you've got some dandies. I think the best thing that's happened to IndyCar is Jay Fry, in my opinion. However, I'm not happy. He said, I'm an oval guy. I said, oh yeah, does COTA qualify as an oval in place of Phoenix? Well, we're working on it. Is there a chance that you'll run one or two more races by next year or the year after?
You know, our short-term goal is not to grow the number. I don't think we can ask the teams to run a greater number of races until we can get them some more money, to be frank. And so it's all related. And my expectation is next year will be 17 again. It's possible it could be 18, but that's not an objective. We're caring about being in good places, a good mix between ovals and streets and roads, and in markets that help us grow the sport. So I would like to continue. We continually want to start the season earlier, but it's really not about seeing how many races we can pack into the available weeks.
Was COTA happy with the turnout? I mean, it looked to me like it was a pretty good crowd. I read where it was estimated around 25,000. I don't know what Formula One draws because when they ran, I didn't watch. But they were happy with the crowd they got?
I think so. It was the first year. A lot of people in Austin didn't know what IndyCar is, and so we and I think Bobby Epstein, the owner and promoter, were pretty happy. They did a great job. They spent a lot of money to bring out music in their amphitheater there on the premises. They promoted it in town. The crowd was okay, and I guess everybody has their own view, but I liked the racing.
Yeah, now, it's probably not a joke because I've sent you some messages from time to time on things, and I send both positive and negative. When I see something I question, I don't hesitate to answer. And believe it or not, it'll answer me. Probably after, well, never mind. But I've gotten answers at 11 o'clock at night. I'm ready to go nana, and he's answering my email. I'm not a big fan of street and road courses. I've been to a lot of them.
Really?
Yes.
You
probably didn't know that, did you? Yeah, I kind of figured you wouldn't. But I have to say that the cars that are on track now and are good street and road course racing cars. They race well, which was, to me, was always, except for Long Beach when Alexander, I got irritated. They showed a picture out of the front of his car and there's nobody. out of the back of his car, there's nobody there either. So I said, what are we looking at that for? But other than that, I think the cars run well, and I think you've got to look at Mark or Jay and his people have built a car that races, and they've made a change this year that makes it a little bit even better. So hopefully in May this one will be better.
I remember clearly when I started, if you talk to the drivers and the team owners, and probably in a room like this, everybody said the racing is the best. So even then, it was good racing. I do think it's gotten better. I think we're better on all three formats, four short ovals. And, it's just a matter of getting more and more people exposed to how good that sport is.
The thing I find interesting is the drivers for a number of years said, we want more control of the car. And now they got it. Now they got to drive the damn thing. And it's kind of interesting. I haven't heard somebody back out of the gas in turn one in 30 years. But now they got to get out. And you see them sliding from time to time because it doesn't have the downforce. They got to drive the car. And I think that is a huge improvement, in my opinion anyway, right? Okay.
So do they. When we first got out there and tested at COTA in February, and there were some other tests prior to that, guys who'd been asking for less downforce were a little nervous about it, but I haven't heard that in a while. I think they love this car, and I think it's performing really well for us.
And as I have pointed out many times, Formula One says we got a world champion. I don't buy that. I asked Michael Schumacher was here. So why don't you come and run the 500? I don't have anything to prove. Yeah, you do. Can you run 500 miles on an oval? He said no. If you win the IndyCar title, which, as everybody knows, Scott Dixon has done 5 times, you got to be able to run a 3/4 mile track and a 2.5 mile and street and road courses in between. You got to drive it all, and you got to be good at all of it. And I think, in my opinion, and a lot of people, IndyCar drivers are without question the best drivers in the world.
So you kind of like the variety of tracks.
I think when you're looking to compare a Formula One with what IndyCar does, they have to do it. It doesn't mean I like what they do. I just say you have to be able to do all in order to win the championship.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I just think the drivers are the best, and that's just my opinion. So what's next? What's next for Mark Miles and the IndyCar Series, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? Anything new and exciting? I mean, I see that the Fuzzy's building is still green, but Fuzzy disappeared. Is there something going up there shortly?
Yeah.
Autosport
sure
Radio?
if you're asking me, we probably haven't announced it yet, but yes. I think you can expect a color change and a new association between that building and people in the Turn 2 suites and a great organization in town. There's a lot going on. NTT coming in as the title has been really important, and there's tons of work going. First of all, they got the app done well, on time, and now no matter who your cell phone provider is, you can get it. So we're really happy about that. And now a lot of work is going into what will be the next technological development for fans. And we'll see what that looks like. There's lots of things we'd like to be able to do. So we're really happy with them. Speedway deserves a plug, a big plug. We're so delighted they're the official fuel. If you fill up at Speedway, you're seeing that they're bragging about being the official fuel of IndyCar, and they're doing it on television as well, so we love that. And they'll be doing more soon. Soon you will see you may remember that other fuel company had big signs at the track. Those are down, and the new ones with Speedway will be going up. I think some of it's going up tomorrow. So there's just lots going on, and yesterday was the first day of the guy who will report to me that's responsible for sponsor sales, sponsor the care and feeding of sponsors, and licensing. Casey Lane has come in. He's going to be dynamite in this job and started yesterday, so we're excited to bring him on board.
Where did he come from?
Well,
and I don't mean Vermont. I mean, what job?
He much of his career has been in sales with professional bull riding. So people will say, well, he doesn't know anything about racing, but I tell you what, he knows something about sales. So that's a group that they promote their own events.
Yep.
We have promoters, and they sell their sponsorship, In the case of PBR, they sell their own sponsorships, so they got to find local companies every place they go. And then they sell PBR series sponsors. They have a good television deal with CBS, so he's used to dealing with the networks and the media. And, I hope we can get to the point where we have as many different deals as he's done every year in his prior capacity. His family's moving here from Colorado this summer, and I think they're bringing a couple horses with them.
Oh, really?
But he is as excited to be here as we are about having him, and I think you'll see the family of companies that help promote us growing quickly.
He's moving from. He remind him to bring a snow shovel because it does snow here. Not as much as there, but it does snow here as well. PBR, I've watched them, and of course, the former member of the IndyCar staff was the co-owner at one time and the president, I think. Last I talked to Randy, he has divested himself of PBR, I guess. But it was interesting to watch because I'd never gotten into it. But once he was there, I started watching. It was kind of fun. I wouldn't do that either. But, again, the things and the people that you find to bring in here is phenomenal. I had Megan here, Allison here 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks ago. And she is really something. She knows how to make things happen in a hurry and good things. But I said, who are the bands playing? I already knew. And she said, Foreigner. The band, Foreigner. I said, who's that? And
I'd understand if you didn't know the names of the 4 talents that are in the snake pit. But you got to know who Foreigner is.
I don't know.
And you might know who Zach Brown is, who's there.
I've heard the name.
Beg your pardon?
What's that? I don't know who that is. I don't know. I've lost me too. Fluffy, you lost me again. Oh, well, I'm not. Something that amazes me. I willingly admit that when I first came here in 63 or whatever it was, I used to spend time in the snake pit, the original one. One year I came home, and all my friends, we had 20, 25 people come over, and we had a 500 party, and it was slides at the time. And I'm showing the slides, and my wife then said, I thought you went to see racing. What is all this? Well, dear, there weren't cars at the time. So I shot in, and when they brought it back, I thought, what a brilliant idea. Now, if they got more people this year than last year, I went down there, I couldn't have fainted and fallen down. There's just no way. And they're going to have more? But the interesting thing I found was when I asked, do any of these people or a lot of them, have they said, there's a race here, we ought to see that too, and they are buying tickets to see the race?
No, they're not.
Oh.
While they're in the snake pit. But what we're experiencing, and I have to admit, I have 4 kids, all adults, the 2 younger sons. When we moved back to Indianapolis, went to the snake pit. And then after a few years, thank goodness, they kind of grew up a bit. And now they're sitting in the stands watching the race. And that's the idea, right? To get young people to get out there, to get in the whole mix. And then the day will come for most of them when they decide they want to be race fans. But the reality is, right now, if they're in the snake pit, they can't even see the track. And they're out there doing a whole different thing.
Yeah, but they can't move to do it. That's when I was there.
Can you hear it?
I can't hear it. I'm not in turn 3. Is there anything on the horizon for the physical Speedway property? I remember having you here the first time, and I said, that's a big piece of land, and it's used twice. Have you got any idea of doing anything else? And you said, no, this is the race. Well, obviously that didn't last long. You have figured out that people will come out to see a myriad of things, none the least of which, of course, is the airplane race, the Red Bull Air Race. That's been going well, I think.
Yeah, we do have other ideas I'm not going to elaborate on tonight, but
of course.
We want to bring more and more stuff out there, more and more reasons for people to come to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. some of which I think will be on the track, some won't. Around the track, think about some of the real estate that is part of the scene. The day will come, and I'm not saying it's tomorrow, when I think we'll see the development of the town of Speedway propelled even further on some of that property. And so that'll be really interesting to watch as there's more and more investment and more going on for the whole of the town, the whole of the area, and for the city. So, we got a long list of stuff we're tinkering with.
But when they brought Mick Jagger and his gang in, and it was huge, I said, now how world do you follow that? The number one group in the world, how do you follow number one? I guess with number two.
No, I think we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. There are definitely things that can be done.
Oh, I'm sure there is. Well, I know you told your wife you'd be home at 7 o'clock. Right now you're only 30 minutes late, and that's probably pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty much in the safe zone.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and coming here, and don't worry, I won't contact you probably until after the season. You're free.
I don't believe that for a second.
Damn, I can't get away with it.
But anyway, thanks for having me. Thank you all for being here, and we sure appreciate your support.
Mark Miles. Thanks. Appreciate it. I hope my next guest is here somewhere. I haven't seen him, but where is I'm here? Where the hell is? Oh, there he is. Want to mention to you that if it's time for insurance for your home, your car, or a commercial building, do what I've done and a lot of people have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. He's located at 5004 West 16th Street in the beautiful town of Speedway. You can reach him at 317-248-0070. Get a quote. You'll be surprised. You get better coverage for less money. And if you haven't joined the IndyCar Nation yet, you've got to do that. Just go to IndyCarNation.com, and in the promo box put Don K, DONKAY 15, and you get 15% off of a champion or legend membership. Are you looking for an experienced car or a new car? You got to check out Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You'll find out why the best prices in the country are, in fact, in the country. What are you throwing at people?
There's more back there on the table if you guys want.
So you got to take a ride up to Daleville. Just go I-69 north to exit 234, go east 1 mile, and you won't miss him. He's right there. And if you want to find out what these guys and gals like about driving an Indy car, take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience 2-seater. You can go to IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date that works for you, and in the promo box put SJ1. You get a 50% discount. Or you can call Shonda and talk to her about dates available. Their number is 317-243-7171. And if you are a vintage racing fan, and you'll see vintage cars at Gateway, go to SVRA.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. It's a great magazine, first class, and you'll find cars that you knew as a kid. They're still out and running, and find out who's driving them. Guys like John Martin. The young kids are still behind the wheel with their fire suit and helmet on. And to see John without his hat on, he's got a helmet. It's kind of a strange, you don't recognize him at all. And speaking of vintage cars, the 2019 Trans Am Speed Fest will be May 3rd to the 5th at the WeatherTech Tech Raceway in Laguna Seca. So if you're anywhere in the area, May 5th, 3rd to the 5th, take a stop by. You'll enjoy it. And do you need any embroidery or any, I said embroidery, didn't I? Any embroidery, you got to call Stitches too. They're on Gasoline Alley. Give Fran a call. She loves to talk. The number is 317-271-3444. Tell her what you want embroidered. Whether it's a hat, shirt, jacket, doesn't make any difference. You get it there, she'll take care of it for you. Give her a call. And if you want to get into vintage racing, by all means, you got to stop by the Grand King Shop. Take a look at the 1977 Don Edmonds Auto Research Lindsey Hopkins car. I had Lindsey Hopkins. I had the first ground effects car, and I was part owner of the damn thing. Put it in a race, so can't complain. You want to find out more about the car, see it, call the shop number 317-820-3595. And don't forget, everybody, attention. Over there, the Beep Line. They will be here Saturday night beginning at 9 o'clock. And my TV guy didn't turn the camera on to sign. They will be here. You got to come and see them. They are phenomenal. Beep Line. And we have one of the stud muffins here tonight. She's pointing. Fluffy, don't point at him. He gets all nervous. All right. Well, he isn't that good. Don't start blowing smoke up a dress. My next guest is a gentleman I'm very pleased to have him return. He made a trip all the way here to do this program, and we're glad to have him here. He's the Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Gateway Motorsports Park, which has now got a new name, and we'll talk about that. Please welcome Mr. Chris Blair.
So it was funny. I walked in here and I sat down, looked up, and apparently I have the same stylist as Mark Miles. So it's like a before and after photo. We both wore a blue sports coat, same shirt. So, yeah.
Oh, you copied. I know you.
Yeah. You never know.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a lot better this week than I was last couple weeks. So I brought you something. You're one of the only people outside of the Worldwide Technology family that gets a hat. So we've got more stuff coming. And just so everybody knows, all that Gateway stuff is extremely collectible. I'm raising the prices on all of it. We'll have it available at the store if anybody wants to buy some.
What is Worldwide Technology, and how did they tie up? What do they gain with the Gateway Speedway?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. That's the main reason for being here.
Isn't that clever of me?
Yeah, so this all kind of came about at our IndyCar race last year. We had a gentleman who was working with us on our racing program as a consultant. His name is Larry Albus, and Larry was the guy who developed the Anheuser-Busch sports marketing program 30, 40 years ago. So Larry, he was the guy who decided that Budweiser needed to advertise in various forms of racing, and was very active in the Kenny Bernstein sponsorships and all the different programs that you saw. Well, he retired from AB and was kind of tired of sitting around the house, and we brought him on as a consultant for us to help us specifically with the IndyCar race on the Speed Fest and the other activities we're doing outside of it. So Larry was doing this out of the goodness of his heart. And last summer, he said, hey, listen, I've got this guy who contributes a lot to a charity that my wife works for. She works for a charity called Variety. Wes Edwards actually works for Variety, so he's very close with the family. And he said, the guy who is always making donations for us, we found out he's a car guy. We really want to do something special for his birthday. Would you be willing to let him have some kind of a role at your IndyCar race? So the gentleman's name's Dave Stewart. He just so happens that he's the founder of Worldwide Technologies. He comes out to the racetrack. We make him the Grand Marshal. He tells Curtis Francois, our track owner, right after it, he says, this is the greatest thing I've ever been a part of. I love it. What can I do? What other ways can I get involved with this sport, because I love this sport? Now, a little bit of a backstory, he's also involved in the sponsorship of Bubba Wallace over with the Petty Motorsports on the NASCAR side. But he's based in St. Louis, and he loves doing things that benefit the community, number one. And then one of the other components of this, he had just gone to the Bondurant School and learned how to drive a race car, and he's just all in. Very excited about the whole thing. So Curtis said, hey, let's just get together and we'll kind of tell you our story, and let's just see what we can come up with. So they met a couple of times over the winter, and a few weeks back, Dave said, you know what, I want to do something with the racetrack. He said, I see a lot of things that you guys are doing. I want to do the naming rights program. So he comes in, and it's not your traditional naming rights in that somebody just writes a check, hands you a check, and then you go from there to sell the brand and hope for a return on investment. What Worldwide Technology does is they're the largest supply chain company in the world, in that they sell computers, they sell communication systems, all kinds of things, and they're developing various technologies such as apps and different programs that you'd use on your phones or on your computer. They're based in St. Louis. He said, I'd like to turn the racetrack into a proving ground for various forms of technology and how we can try to do things, number one, to make the fan experience better when they're at the racetrack, such as 5G technologies for your phones and different things. He said, I also want to be able to take a look outside the box and see what we can do to make the fan experience so that you can see what's going on in pit road. One of the ideas he threw out to us during the press conferences, he said, I want to have cameras on different crew guys so that fans in the stands can go in and punch in on their phone, and if they want to see Scott Dixon's front tire changer, they can see what that looks like. So, I mean, this guy, he's big vision thinker, and he wants to use the racetrack as the proving grounds to try to develop that. Then, in addition to that, he loves doing things that benefit children's charities and things in our community. He's a big proponent of the math and science programs, the STEAM programs that they're doing. He wants to build a lab at the racetrack where we're teaching kids different things about technology and racing, and he wants to try to help pave the pathway for more careers into racing and try to develop that even more. So this is a guy that, he his little bit of time he's been around racing, he's fallen in love with it. And it just so happens he's a billionaire who owns a major tech company. So it's a great addition to have with our organization.
That worked out real well.
Worked out extremely well. So, and the great thing about this too is, so the whole thing came together about 4.5, 5 weeks ago. And we were trying to figure out when we were going to make the announcement, and a date was chosen last week. And Curtis, our track owner, he likes to do things big, and we had all the resources of Worldwide Technologies with their center there at Maryland Heights, Missouri. And basically what we had to do, and one of the reasons I've been really quiet here lately and you've been kind of overwhelmed on some things, we pulled off the equivalent of a Super Bowl show in about 3 weeks, and what we had to pull off. And one of the things that we tried to do, we had to keep it secret because we knew that if John Bishi, my PR guy, sent out an invitation to someone inviting them to a press conference at Worldwide Technology, the cat was going to be out of the bag. We wanted to keep this secret right up to the last minute. So we hired an outside firm to get all the media there. So they showed up as soon as everybody was checked in that they were going into the arena. 2 trucks roll up. We had an Indy car that we dropped in front of the building. We had our NASCAR show truck we dropped in front of the building, completely wrapped with the all-new branding, which we kept secret, so that after the announcement, the media walked out, and boom, they had Worldwide Technology race cars. So our crew that pulled that off, it was a miracle in itself. And the great thing that I want to say on this, and again, you talk about Jay Fry, how great he is. As soon as we signed the deal, I sent Jay a text and said, I need a favor. I need you to be in St. Louis on April the 17th. We've got a big announcement. Jay didn't ask any other questions. He says, I'm there. Glenn Cromwell, the president of NHRA, I sent Glenn a text. I said, Glenn, we're doing a major track sponsorship program. I need you. I think it would be very important. It would be good for the sport if you're here. He showed up. Ben Kennedy from NASCAR, I asked him, would you be willing to come here and be a part of this program? So we had Jay Fry, Glenn Cromwell, Ben Kennedy, so the top leaders of the 3 major sanctioning bodies were there to support us. So that really says a lot. A lot of people are really down on racing and the different forms of racing right now. But when you've got guys like Glenn and Jay and Ben who are willing to drop what they're doing to come help one of the tracks, I think we're starting to see a reversal. And the people that are now in charge of the sport, they love the sport. So that's a pretty good sign when we see those people willing to come help out a racetrack on what should have been their week off because everybody was off last week. But they came and helped us out.
I know when I talked to you, or I don't know if I talked to you or texted you, and you said, big announcement, keep your ears open next week. And I sat, she said, aren't you going to bed? No, I'm waiting for the announcement. That's it.
It worked out really well. I just got some of the numbers yesterday. NASCAR was tremendous at helping us with getting the word out. IndyCar, their PR department helped us. But as of yesterday afternoon it was actually at 12 yesterday, our stories had run in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times. It ran in newspapers in Australia. Forbes picked it up. Because of the magnitude of a tech company getting involved in racing, we had 288 million individual impressions of the story about Gateway becoming Worldwide Technology Raceway. So,
this might be a silly question, but it sounds like Worldwide is quite similar to NTT.
Well, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure of. And when we were in the initial talks, we talked to both Mark and Jay and their groups. And based on what we were told, so Worldwide Technology would be the company that would sell products to an NTT.
Oh, really?
One of their biggest clients here in the States is the TT that starts with another letter. So they're selling to them. So that's one of their biggest customers. The main thing that they do is they sell the product. So HP Computers, Cisco, they're the #1 distributor of those products. But then they also sell the support staff that maintains all of it. So you would see their product being sold to an NTT, and then they would provide support to work with some of that.
Does Curtis ever get any time off?
Well, he's off this evening, and we have him over here at indoor karting. He's racing in the Tuesday Night Thunder event tonight, so I've got him over there. But no, again, this is one of those, too, that it worked out just because Curtis is genuinely a really nice guy, And Dave, the owner, Dave Stewart, the owner of Worldwide Technology, is a really nice guy. And when the two of them got together, they hit it off. They're both car guys, and it worked out really well. But the success we've had, the Bommarito sponsorship, that was because of Curtis's relationship with John Bommarito. This was another one where it's a relationship. Mark Miles, one of the reasons we got an IndyCar race, it was through a whole lot of work of Jay. But once we got to Mark believed in what we were doing, mainly because they believe in what Curtis is doing. It was after one of those meetings, I always like to say, we had a couple of meetings with Mark, and Curtis asked me, he said, well, you think we're going to get a race? I said, well, he's either going to give us a race or a restraining order, one of the two, because we were wearing him out trying to get the race. So, but, Curtis is just a fantastic person. He'll be out at the racetrack tomorrow. We're going to be out there in Turn 2. We've got a show car. We're going to be unveiling our ticket for this year's race. We're going to be doing that. So we invite everybody to come out and visit us. It's going to be a great production. Ruthie Forbes, who just walked in,
Yes.
She's coordinated everything for us on tomorrow's program. Yeah, if you don't come out tomorrow to Turn 2, Ruthie will have failed in her mission. So I pay her big money to get people out there for our unveiling tomorrow.
Well, unfortunately for her, I ran into Scott Thursday night, and he's telling me some of the things going on. And I said, by the way, can I invite Ruthie back anytime? I said, he said, if she's dumb enough, sure. I've known that young lady for about 25 years.
She's been one of the reason for our success is because of Ruthie. She takes care of all the stuff for us in Indianapolis. Otherwise, I'd be burning the road up back and forth being up here. And Ruthie's, I like to say a lot of times, she's my voice of reason. If I'm just really frustrated with something, she bails me out of a lot of problems. So
Now, you have a number of events at the Speedway.
Yep.
And one of them with IndyCar is going to be the Vintage Indy Registry. They're bringing some cars there.
Yep.
What is it when you come to see? One of the things that's impressed me when you have a race, particularly IndyCar, because when you go into the track at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's something going on all day long. You don't let people sit back and go out and drink beer and fall asleep in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You've got part of it. What's part of what the Indy Registry is going to be doing?
Well, this year, and I don't know if you guys know about it yet, since we've got a table full of you guys over here, but one of the things we're making some modifications on the way we're laying out the pit area, because last year I had no idea how big it was going to be, because Mike and Ron, they told me they were bringing all these cars, and I didn't know exactly what we were going to get, and it really was bigger than the footprint. So this year we're making some adjustments, and if you're familiar with our facility, we're taking part of the Kartplex, and we're going to shorten the Kartplex, and we're taking the area by the garages over there so that the Vintage Indy group has a huge paddock. So that's one thing. And we're also inviting all the people who have the garages, the karters that are out there, a lot of the young kids. They're going to have basically a go-kart show and shine where they're going to have all their cars lined up. So it basically be the old and the new all together at one place. So that's going to be nice. And plus, it gets those guys out of the area. Last year we had a lot of challenges because of the rain. Everybody in the group, I didn't hear a single person complain from the Indy group, and I believe I would have if I would have been in that situation because we had water holes that kept filling, and we were trying to get them out, and it was right where they were. But no, it's going to be a really good program again this year. We have a full slate, and that was one of the things that I noticed in going to a lot of the races. When you go to the street races or the road courses, from start to finish, there was always something going on, and you would go to the oval events, and there was nothing going on during the day. And nobody wants to sit in the stands and watch somebody get a two-seater ride. That was always one of the things I looked at. Why do we want to take this prime time? So let's just cram as much stuff as we can into this. And that's one of the great things about now Worldwide Technology Raceway is we're just the right size so that we can run Indy Lights. It's just the right size so we can run the Mazda program. This year we're going to have the NASCAR K&N program on the same day. The Vintage Indy car is running, and then the main event, the Bommarito 500, fills up the whole day. Now I don't expect people to go there and sit in the stands the whole time, but there's just something about having noise going and cars going, so you can either go check things out, or you can go sit down and watch whatever you want to do. But it just keeps people there the whole day, and that's what I love about going to the events. The street races are challenging sometimes because you can only see certain sections. But you always know something's going on. You got a cool paddock to walk through and check out. That's what we're trying to take the best parts of the road courses and the street races and bring them into the oval. And so far, it's working out pretty well.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. Now, one thing that's concerning to me, I just discovered, is your insurance. Do you have good insurance? Very good for the drivers and
I
participants?
hope so.
I understand that
enough for it.
Mr. Throckmorton was likely to be in somebody's car. I mean, I
boy.
don't know that for sure, but that scared the hell out of me, just the thought of it.
I'd be more concerned if I was the owner of the car that he
Well,
was
yeah,
in.
that's the other-
I'm
that's
not
the other
concerned
problem.
about it, but I think we'll be okay.
Oh, okay. How did you get started in racing?
Oh, that's a good one. It's been so long ago, I've almost forgotten. Growing up, my next door neighbor had a dirt late model. Well, back up even before that. When I was a kid growing up, the local dirt track up the road, just about everybody had to drive by our front yard to get to the dirt track. So Saturday evening, I'd go out with a lawn chair. This is 3-4 years old. Sit in the front yard and watch race cars go by. Because my dad didn't want me going to the races because he didn't want me around that element. That's what he was afraid of. So then in growing up, anytime I could get an opportunity to go to the races, we go along for a ride. I guess it really started when I was about 12 years old. Next door neighbor down the road, who's also a cousin of mine, had a dirt late model. And when he would come home from the races, he would let me go over and scrape the mud off of his vehicle and wash
right.
it. That was my first part into it. And then he decided he wanted to try to help me work. He wanted me to work on the cars, and then he soon realized that anytime I take a wrench in my hand, something screws up. So I started lettering his race cars instead. So I was doing that, and then as technology changed and he realized there was better sign painters, he said, why don't you just write about racing? Because I was pretty decent in school, the writing, so I started writing for my local newspaper. That was the first step. I would write for the local paper. I'd bitch and complain about the promoter not doing his job. So the promoter said, well, if you're so good at it, well, I was complaining about the announcer. The promoter said, well, if you're so good at it, why don't you announce? I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I think I was 16, 17. I was announcing the races. Then I started bitching about the promoter. And then he said, well, if you're so good, why don't you just do my job? So I started helping him promote his races. So it's just one of those, I kind of bitched my way up all the way through, So it just kind of worked for me.
I never thought of that, but that's a clever idea.
Yeah.
Trouble is, if I bitch enough, I'll fire myself. And
Well, I've kind of gotten to the point, if I do, I really can't bitch too far up now because they're going to shoot me back down. So I figure I better calm down and chill out a little bit now. So
now, the IndyCar race is the Bommarito.
yes.
Did I not see at the 24-hour Daytona somebody with that very name in a car?
Similar name,
Oh, I thought it was the same.
1M versus 2Ms.
Oh, okay.
So my Bommarito, I think, has 2. Yeah, my Bommarito has 2. That Bommarito has 1. And so what's so funny is I was actually with John Bommarito, our sponsor, and we were somewhere, and we were watching one of the Dave Despain broadcasts. And Dave has the other John Bommarito on the broadcast. So he asked the guy, he says, so are you the John Bommarito that's part of the automotive group? And I was like, okay, our sponsorship worked. So I'm slapping John Bommarito. I said, you see that? They wouldn't have known who you were if it hadn't been for the Bommarito Automotive Group 500. So that one kind of worked out. But there's no relation to it. But John Bommarito, he's all in. He loves racing too. He's helping out a friend of ours who has a NASCAR truck team, Jordan Anderson. He's helping him out some. Through a program he was doing with Spectrum, you'll see his name on Sebastian Bourdais' car this year. He bought enough advertising with Spectrum that they had some space that was given to them on Sebastian's car with coin. So you'll see Bommarito on a few races with that. So it's kind of helped grow his brand. I was just at a meeting with him this morning, and this is how far in the guy is on everything. There was an opportunity with a local paper where they want to do more motorsports coverage. And John knew that I had the meeting. He said, I want to be there at the meeting. So he goes in with me. He's sitting there at the table because John is one of their biggest advertisers. And he's telling them, you need to do this because this affects my business. It affects what I do with the race. So he's very supportive. So like I've said before, I don't think I could have found a better sponsor anywhere than what they do. They convert a lot of media for us. And then just the support behind the scenes support that they do. He's all in, so it's a good one.
So what does the track owner get out of this? Is this part of his business, or has he done so well it doesn't matter? He just wants to do it because he loves it.
Who's that, Curtis?
Yes.
Well, Curtis used to race Indy Lights. He raced NASCAR Goodies Dash, ran some offshore boat racing for a while. He's always just been a speed freak. He fell in love with that particular facility. I believe it was in 1973. His dad took him to the real old St. Louis International Raceway to see Evel Knievel do a jump. So in Curtis's office, there's a picture of Evel Knievel from that day at the racetrack. And I asked him, I said, "So did you get that after you bought the track?" He said, "No, I've always had that picture." That meant so much to him. That's something that he did with his dad. And his dad, passed away many years ago, but the memory of the Evel Knievel event meant something to Curtis. His dad brought him to some other races over there. So when the opportunity to save the racetrack came about, Curtis is very successful in his other things. He went into this primarily to save the racetrack. His initial advertising, he came up, he said, "I want our advertising. We're not selling a race, we're selling memories." And our message in our first ads were that we were there to make memories that'll last a lifetime, because that was what happened with Curtis. It was a true story for him. And he didn't want to lose the racetrack because he's very, very dedicated to St. Louis and the Civic and trying to continue to develop the area. He knew if that racetrack went away, there would never be another racetrack there. And he wanted to save that not only for this generation, but for his kids and on down the road. So it started out as more of a passion for him. $35 million later, we're hoping that we get to the point where we get some of his money back. But he's continually investing. We're doing a lot of work on our road course right now to try to make it better.
We're working with the Rallycross group, do some Rallycross events. The Cartplex is getting expanded. He's just always wanting to make it a better experience. So that's one of the great things about teaming up with Worldwide Technology. There's a lot of stuff that Curtis wanted to do to enhance that experience. But after spending $35 million, at some point you want to see it pay for itself, and this is the way it pays for itself.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? And among other things, when you don't really think about it, but you have drag racing down there too, which is,
Yes, we do.
the thing that I know a number of the drag races because a lot of them are right here. But I think what really put drag racing on the television map is when they put the camera behind the cars. Because when you sit and the car runs this way, you don't see them steering, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
But with the camera behind them, you can see the car come up, and I think it made a huge difference in my opinion. And plus, when you got some guy by the name, what's his, Force,
Oh, yeah.
John Force, you can't shut him up. I had him here one night. I asked a question, and one sat down.
Yeah,
There was no reason to say anything.
Well, that's one of the things, too, just so you know. John Force has been a very good friend of mine for many, many years. And at one time, I almost actually went to work for John. We had some conversations about it. But when he found out that I was talking to Curtis and that Curtis was talking to me, this was back in 2012, he calls me one day and he said, "You need to be with that guy. That guy needs to be with you." He said, "You guys be perfect together. He needs you. You need him." He said, "I'm going to call and try to help out." And I said, "John, the last thing I want you to do is to call." I said, "Let's get Robert to make the phone call." So Robert Height made the phone call. I think Force took the phone away. But they were a big part of what we've done. John is very, very loyal to all of his friends, and as long as you treat John right, he treats you right. And 25 years later, I'm a testament to that. He's been very instrumental in everything that I do.
I hung around a few times with the guy you talked about that tried to go at Caesar's Palace and missed.
Yep.
He came here and he was with Grant King, and I'm not sure if he wasn't with J.C. Agajani at one time.
Yeah, probably.
But we're in the pit area and walking along. He's hobbling along, and I said, "We better get out of here. The cars are starting to go." I got over the wall, which isn't that high. He had a hell of a time. I said, "What's the matter? You having a little trouble getting over the wall?" He said, "If you broke as many things as I have, you'd have trouble too."
He made a hell of a lot of money doing it, though.
Yeah.
You got to give him credit for that.
And then he ended up down in Largo, Florida, as an artist, and I heard his paintings were pretty good, but I don't know. I never saw one.
Yeah.
But anyway, got a question here.
Oh boy,
No, it's a very good one because it's been asked by many. I'm sure you've heard it.
I haven't.
Is it possible that IndyCar would have their season finale at your track?
Oh man, it's funny you asked that.
I don't hear anybody laughing. They're going,
Yeah.
"Ooh, good idea."
There's certain people that want it. There's certain people who don't want it. Some people think that it needs to be in a glamorous location because of sponsors. Jay Fry doesn't believe that. I don't believe it. Curtis doesn't believe it. The majority of the people working over here next to the Speedway, they don't believe that. There's certain people that we just have to convince them that it needs to be at Gateway. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a couple of car owners who don't want to have the finale at Gateway. Just because they feel like they need to be somewhere where they can wine and dine and You know, Monterey Peninsula is pretty daggone nice when you go there in the fall. So give them credit. You know,
However, Budweiser's in St. Louis, and they have a number of products.
you have Budweiser, you have Enterprise, you have Worldwide Technologies. There's Energizer. I just heard Mike Lashman sent me a text earlier, let me know that Energizer Holdings just purchased STP, so now STP is going to be based in St. Louis. So that's another exciting bit of news for our town. There was a few things at play too, though. One of them being dates. Our NHRA race has always been like the weekend of September the 22nd, sometimes a week later. The way the calendar is making some changes, NASCAR is making a lot of moves. That's causing everybody else to make moves. Next year, it appears as though our NHRA race is going to go into October. That opens some doors so it can coincide. I want it. We just have to convince everybody else that it needs to be at Gateway. One thing, too, though, I still feel that one of the keys to our success, though, Saturday night under the lights at Gateway looks really, really good. I know NBC really, really wants that Sunday afternoon slot. My only concern with us hosting it would be if the folks who live here, the folks who are here tonight, does going on Sunday deter them from coming to the race because they have to get home, they have to go to work the next day. That's my biggest concern. So you'd have to have that right time slot so that we could get the race over with 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, gets everybody home 7, 8 o'clock at night. So there's so many things that are at play there. Ideal situation would be the finale, under the lights, Saturday night. That's what I hope for. And here's the best way to make this work. When you guys go see Mark Miles, wear him out. Tell him that's what he needs to do.
And tell him Chris told you to say so.
Yeah, no, Don told you to say so. But no, he understands where we're at on things. And in some of the conversations we had last fall, it was getting pretty close. There was going to be a lot of challenges to make that happen. So it's kind of where we had to kind of scale back a little bit and wait, see how things happen with NBC. We need to see what happens with the TV ratings. I'm really excited to see what happens now that the broadcasts are going to go to those NBC time slots. Nothing against NBC Sportsnet. I think it's going to be a whole different animal when it gets over on the big network. And we're already seeing that with Andretti's last week on the Today Show. We saw the stuff on Jimmy Kimmel last week where they were on his show, or excuse me, Jimmy Fallon. They're making progress. I feel like NBC is all in on this. I think if we see the results I think we're going to see, it's going to put us in a better position where we can kind of control the narrative on what happens with the races. So we'll see what happens.
There was a day when Texas ran twice. Now, what the hell's wrong with one in Gateway? Because obviously the majority fan base is within the Midwest. So
I don't know if I can do two of those in 1 year. It's a challenge right now. You know the old saying, was it P.T. Barnum? It says you always have to leave them wanting more. I'm almost afraid, and I think the folks in NASCAR are seeing this. That's one of the reasons Pocono next year is going to have a doubleheader. I think it's going to be one of the greatest experiments ever to see you doing a Saturday show and a Sunday show. We'll see how that works. They're scaling back on some of these 2-day shows or places where they're going twice. I really don't know if you need to go to the same place twice. Let's make it where it's an annual event. People get excited about it. Everybody gets prepared for it. That one time in and get the full support. Never take it for granted.
Well, I was wrong again.
I'll give you a good example. I go to probably 6 or 7 baseball games a year down in St. Louis, and this week there was a couple of opportunities, and I took a look at the schedule, and they were playing the Milwaukee Brewers for the 9th time this season. So far, I mean, we're this far into the season, they've already played the same team 9 times. I could care less about watching the Cardinals play Milwaukee again. I want to see them play somebody different. And that's one of the things you kind of look at. Do you get into the situation where it's the same thing over and over again? It's kind of like Ritz crackers. You eat one Ritz cracker, man, that's pretty good. You eat 3 or 4 of them, they all kind of taste the same. So let's give one great Ritz cracker every year.
I like Ritz crackers. I like Wheat Thins.
Ruthie, you want to come here and help me with this guy? So, okay, just check. What else you got for me? Come on, Don.
Well, it's just impressive to me what you guys have done in a relatively short amount of time, because you got people that want to make it work. You got sponsors that want the city to prosper. So you got an owner that wants to keep the track there. He's willing to spend a boatload of money to make it better for the fan to get in and out and all that kind of thing. You've got Ruthie selling buses like it's the only way to transfer yourself from here to there.
Well, and one thing too, and again, all this would not be possible if it wasn't for the fact that Jay Fry, Mark Miles, Steven Starks, they all took a chance on us. And that was one thing you got to look at. Before, I think the door probably would have been closed in our face. Those guys took a chance on us. They believed in us. They've been very supportive, not only in year one, but in year three. So it all goes back to the leadership at the top, what they're willing to do. So again, I know a lot of people like to bitch and moan about things, but having good people at the top who care about the sport is what's the key, and we've got that now.
And that's what I think Mark Miles brings to the table. He knows how to put the right people in the right place. You don't have to be a genius about the sport, but you got to know how to make things happen. I mean, CEOs of a lot of companies don't know how to make the widget, but they know who does.
Exactly.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, was it the first or second year you were the promoter of the year?
So in the first year, the Racetrack Business Conference, Tim Frost and his group, they gave us an award for being the outstanding event of the year, and then the city of St. Louis, through their tourism and the Civic Pride group, they awarded Curtis a leadership award for the success of the second event. So we can say that we win awards every year. So hopefully we haven't run out of awards that we can win, but we're still trying.
Is Budweiser involved with you guys at all?
Yeah, Budweiser is. When we first reopened the track, a lot of things have changed in St. Louis, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with Budweiser, but Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch sold out to another corporation.
In Belgium.
In Belgium. And a lot of the local people who are involved with a lot of things, they've gone to other areas. My VP of sales, Declan O'Neill, who's also racing go-karts over at the indoor karting, he came to us from Budweiser. Larry, who's a consultant for us, he came over from Budweiser. We have Lisa Devning, who just joined our finance team. She's a former AB person as well. The great thing about them leaving is we're picking up a lot of good talent in the area. There's still a lot of supporters, a lot of people who were with the old group that are there working with groups like Gray Eagle, which is our distributor. So Budweiser is a big part of our racetrack through the Gray Eagle brand and that distributing group. But at the same time, we also have a relationship with Miller Coors. So we're one of the few racetracks you can go into where you're going to see equal Budweiser signage, equal Coors, equal Miller signage. So we've been very fortunate at that. And it kind of gets a little bit of a competition amongst them on who does the best promotion out in the market. So we've been very, very fortunate in that our distributors help us do events. So Budweiser's still present. It's just not what it used to be, but it's still pretty strong.
They sponsored me, the local distributor sponsored me for like 10 years.
You drank a whole lot of beer during that time, didn't you?
No, because I didn't get it free. I still had to pay for it. But they were with it. And do the Bush family, they still own the horses? Is that all part of it? Or
They
the
do.
whole thing go over?
And Billy Bush, he started his own brand. They were involved with the racetrack for quite a few years, a brand called Craftig. And he brews it there in St. Louis. He's involved with the sport. He's a friend of Curtis's also. Very good guy. And so we've had a relationship with them also.
Well, I met Augie, I think Junior, whatever. Met him a couple of days, and he was really into racing. His dad was, obviously.
Yeah.
What happened to Mr. Budweiser? Where did he? Anheuser-Busch. What happened to Mr. Anheuser?
Oh, that's a good question.
Was there one?
I'm sure at some time there was. I believe the story was, if there's any beer historians in the room, I believe that Anheuser was one of the original founders, and he teamed up with the Bush. Is that what it was? Yeah. Yes. So they all kind of teamed up together. So I'm not a big. I don't know my beer history like I do my racing history, but
She does. You should see her slosh it
she's
around.
on that, wasn't she?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I can't tell you how pleased I am, and I'm sorry you're missing the karting.
No. Well, here's the thing about it. You actually saved me from this because otherwise I would have been on the carts, and I'm not as young as I used to be. So those things, they were pretty rough looking over there. So I was going to be beat up pretty bad. I don't need that right now. So worked out really well.
Andy and Sarah have a great operation going on. I think they got all new carts now.
And I tell you what, this program that they're doing over there, Chris Wheeler from Bell Helmets, he called me up back and I was actually down in Daytona, and he calls me. He says, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to know, would you be willing to be a sponsor and get involved with this program that we're going to do? It's mainly getting the racing industry to come out on Tuesday nights and race karts."
Yeah.
So we hopped in mainly because it was Chris, because he does a lot to help out the sport, and the amount of exposure we've received from being involved with that has been fantastic. It's worked out really well for us, so we're real happy. I told him we're on again for next year. We want to be a part of that program.
Well, I knew Chris back when, in order to shave, he got to put a little milk on his face and the cat licked it off. I've known him a long time, his mom and dad as well.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for being here. I know you didn't make the trip just to do this, but like a lot of interviews you may do, you can do it over the phone, but to talk here, you got to be here.
Exactly. Well, I love seeing these guys. I mean, we got a great group of folks here that, over the course of the last couple of years, feel like I've made a lot of friends in Indianapolis. Love coming up here. I wish I could come up here more, but unfortunately, we get kind of bogged down sometimes in some of the stuff that we're doing. But I love coming up here, being a part of it. The outlet through the show here of talking with you, the amount of feedback I had after that first visit was incredible from people who watched the show, so it worked out really well for us. Anytime I can get out and talk about what we're doing at the now Worldwide Technology Raceway, formerly Gateway, I try to get out and get involved because we've got a great story to tell. I feel like any outlet I can get out and tell that story, it just works for us.
Now, I don't know if you were sitting here when Mr. Miles made comment that you're going to be in Turn 2 area passing out tickets. I said, "Oh, really?"
We're passing out donuts, right, Ruthie? So what we're going to do?
Donuts?
We're going to have donuts. Ruthie and I are going to go to Long's Donuts tomorrow. We're going to sneak donuts into the Speedway.
You better be there about 4 o'clock in the morning. It'll be lined up down the street.
She already set it up for me. She placed the order. Yeah, so... but no, what we're going to do, we have a car with our new logo on it. Hopefully they kept the stickers on it. Okay, so Ruthie's got it lined up. We're going to bring the car out. Tomorrow at 1:45, we're going to unveil the ticket for this year's race. We have a nice big 4-foot-tall version of our ticket that we're going to give away. Is Will going to be over there for that? So we'll have Will Power there. Jay's going to be there. Jay Fry will be there. That's at 1:45. Curtis will be there. We're going to do some Q&As. Doug's going to be over there also. Doug's actually going to help me throw some donuts to people around tomorrow morning. Our crew's going to be there with some register to win info. If people want to buy a bus trip, we'll be there tomorrow. They can do that. If they just want to talk to us, they're more than welcome to come over. Keith from our Kartplex is going to be there with one of our Kartplex carts, and he's going to talk to folks. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but Doug Bowles' son races go-karts with us at Gateway. So
I didn't know that.
Doug spends more Saturdays at Gateway, I believe, than I do, because I'm usually traveling somewhere promoting, and Doug comes down with the kid and races at the Kartplex. So we've got a really good back-and-forth relationship going on with that. So we have a big day planned tomorrow. We hope everybody sneaks off from work or whatever it is you do and come out. We're going to be in Turn 2, set up, and meet our crew and have a good time with us.
Ruthie, how many buses have you filled so far?
We're going for 5. That's our goal.
All right. And how do you sign up for it?
See Ruthie.
But if you don't,
You can call the Worldwide Technologies Raceway Ticket Office and 618-215-8888 extension 101 and ask for either Taryn or Taylor, and you can get the bus trip. And we're working on it. And just so you know, I know a lot of you guys have talked to Taylor. I've always get a lot of feedback. People talk about these. Talk to Taylor in our ticket office. On May the 4th here in Indianapolis, she's getting married. So we're all the Gateway Worldwide crew. We're all going to come up to Indianapolis and go to Taylor's wedding. So she's from here, so it's going to be a big day for all of us too. So if you do call the Gateway ticket office, congratulate Taylor on getting married, if you would.
yes. All right. I can't thank you enough for being here. I know the last time you heard a lot of people talk, wow, that Gateway, they're really doing
WWT Raceway.
WWT Raceway.
We still left the word at Gateway because we've spent all these years pushing Gateway, Gateway, Gateway.
Yeah.
So we still keep that in there. We're always going to be Gateway. It's kind of long right now. Most of the time you're going to hear it referred to as WWT Raceway, or kind of like Prince when he became the artist formerly known as Prince. We're going to be the racetrack formerly known as Gateway. So
There you go.
we'll keep up with that.
Well, thank you for being here. Look forward to your August race and watching the Vintage Indy cars there. Vintage Indy Registry. Do you know how many cars Mike's got scheduled?
Have you guys heard lately? I know he says a lot. He keeps sending me pictures. 33 to 35 is what they're looking at, and it's he keeps sending me pictures of all the cool stuff that's coming. So I'm pretty excited about it.
All right. I want to thank you for being here. And for those who don't know what the Vintage Indy Registry looks like, here's their poster for the race.
Well, and one thing to point out: 2 events this year. There's going to be 2 events with Vintage Indy Registry. They're going to the Milwaukee Mile.
Oh, yeah.
If you're looking at the poster,
Yeah.
that would work out great. Bob Sargent, who also does some work with us, he's doing that event. That's going to be fantastic having him at the Milwaukee Mile. We're looking forward to that one too. So,
Okay.
and then at Gateway in August,
Well,
Worldwide Technology Raceway in August.
well, just go to the place it used to be, and you'll
This
see
track
everything.
yeah, it's going to take a while for us to get over. We're going through all the sign changeover. I got some business cards now that have the new logo on it, but it's going to take us a little while. I'm sure I'll be tripping over it for a bit.
Well, I got
Do what? Can you park at Brickwalker? I don't know.
All right. Well,
Yeah? Okay. I think you can. Okay.
And if they don't drive through it, just tell them Steve told you. All right. We're up.
Yeah? We'll BS our way through it.
That's all right. Who cares?
One thing I found out, and we're working on this, tomorrow I'm going to go find Doug's vehicle, whatever Doug Bowles is driving. I'm taking a picture of it because he has a white Tahoe. So I'm going to go to Bomarito, to his Chevy dealership, before the 500. I'm going to borrow a white Tahoe, go to my sign guide. I'm going to get it decorated up just like Doug's. I'm going to drive anywhere I want during the month of May. So that's my goal. Because I've noticed if somebody rolls up in one of those cars, they just wave them through. So last year I had a white vehicle that Bomarito gave us, had Bomarito logos on it, had Gateway signage on it. I come rolling up and they're just waving me in, and I'm like, man, they did that with just this one. What's going to happen if I brand it just like Doug's? So that's my goal. I'm going to brand it just like Doug's. I'm going wherever I want this year during the 500.
And if anybody says to you, "What in the world are you doing?" That it was Ruthie's idea.
This is Ruthie's idea. That's it.
Well, I thank you for being here. And
Thanks for having us.
Look forward to your race, and hopefully in the very near future, the final race of the year with the majority of the fans, because they're in the Midwest, will be at your track.
If you guys want it, if you want that race, y'all know where Mark Miles works. Just go beat on his door and let him know that. And we won't argue one bit.
Thanks for being here. Chris
Thank you.
Blair, the Executive Vice President, General Manager of
Worldwide Technology Raceway.
and Gateway.
There you
Thanks
go.
for being here.
Thanks, Doc. Appreciate
Now,
it.
don't leave. I've got another guest coming up
Oh.
on something I wasn't aware of.
Oh, cool.
And this gentleman has come up with this brilliant idea. And everyone has heard about nitrogen in tires. And I said, yeah, I've heard of that. It wasn't, I don't know. Well, there's a better process for race cars. And this gentleman is here. He developed it. He's the founder of the company. He's the CEO of JDL Technologies. And they make the equipment that puts on nitrogen in tires, and it's as pure as you can get. So I said, why don't you come and talk to me? So please welcome Mr. Joe Lentini.
Thank you for having me.
What is the advantage of nitrogen rather than air?
Well, basically, nitrogen is a dry, inert gas. So the more
Talk right into this.
nitrogen is a dry, inert gas, so the more gas you can get into the tire, the less moisture you can have. And teams have been using it for 70 years, but they've never perfected how much nitrogen you can control in a tire.
But you have.
We have.
How long did it take you to develop it?
Well, I've developed the very first nitrogen machine in 2008, but I brought on a gentleman, Bob Morris, who is head of the racing division. We got to talking about helping the race team.
Close.
helping the race teams with getting their purity higher. And so we developed a machine that's computer controlled, and it takes a tire guy now on an Indy team about 45 minutes to 50 minutes to purge the tires. But he still isn't consistent, and he still doesn't have the control of how much nitrogen he puts in the tire. So the machine that we developed is you can do all 4 tires, set the tire pressures, and instead of doing 50 minutes, it does all 4 tires in 10 minutes, and it does 100% of nitrogen.
And does that affect the race car and handling or anything? Or
It affects the handling and the performance of the tires. Everybody who's ever listened to racing, you hear 3 things on the radio or the announcer. It's the car, the driver, and tires. And the 4th is their fuel. How far can they go on their fuel? So the first year we got into with KVS Racing, we did Sebastian Bourdais' car. He's an unknown driver. You guys probably don't know who he is, but no, he's one of the winningest Indy drivers recently. And he was at Belle Isle in Detroit on the first. They have 2 races on the same day, and he was in 11th position coming into the pits, and there was Penske, Andretti, and Target, and everybody was in first, ahead of him. So they were on their 46th lap, and he came in and just got fuel. Everybody got fuel and tires. So if anybody knows the way guys come out of the pits with their tires lit up, they're sliding all over the place. So Sebastian came straight through the pits, passed up 7th, 6th, 5th, and 4th. And then by the time Penske got out there with their tires, they were trying to get what they call their hot lap. So they have to get their tires hot to get their temperatures raised up so they can get the stickiness of the tire. And by that time, Sebastian Bourdais had gone 18 laps longer than everybody else on the same set of tires, gained control, and won the race. So it's a proven effect. And here, it's been I basically wanted to give up on Indy cars because there's a lot of stuff that goes along with the engineers and so on, and it's expensive to be here and so on. We're not that big of a company. We're a small company run by a little Italian guy like me out of Santa Ana, California. But we have great technology. But the cool thing is we're here with McLaren today, and they've chosen to use our system. Fernando Alonso wants to use it, and we did some testing 2 weeks ago in Texas. They loved what they saw. They've invited us back. Not only have they invited us back, but they gave Bob Morris, the guy that works with us, he's standing right there. He's going to be their tire guy, and they gave him his hard card to make sure that things go right. And so I luckily was able to bring my crew here. I've got Bob Morris and Ed Marashi, who's designed the engineering part of the computer. And so what we're really doing is we're taking the technology and we're making it stupid simple for the teams to have all the technology.
Wait a minute. Are you insinuating that some of the team members are stupid?
No, I never said that.
Okay.
I just said that it's
Stupid
nice.
simple.
The engineers are the ones who want all the data, not. But the cool thing is that the way the machine is designed is that now the engineers can know by the minute what set of tires they did, how much nitrogen is in a tire, and it's sent to them Bluetooth to their computer or their iPhone.
Who else is using it? Is Formula One, any of those guys using it? Which
We
is why
actually-
Fernando would say, yeah, I want those, I've used it.
We actually have Will Phillips, who's in Belgium, who has asked us to design a system. They do things differently in Belgium and in Europe. They actually dry the tires and evacuate the air out. You can't do that with Firestone tires, so this system that we have, it makes nitrogen, or you can just use it for the computer side of the technology. But in Europe, we're developing a machine that's going to actually pull the dry air out of the tires, and then on the last fill, it'll be nitrogen, and it'll be 100% of nitrogen.
Strangely enough, speaking of Will Phillips, I know Will.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He loves our system.
He was here working with a team and going back and forth, and I had I tried to find out where he went, and nobody really knew. So now I know where he is, Belgium. I'll find him.
No, I think I've heard through the grapevine that he may be here with Indy, this Indy 500 race.
Really?
Yes.
I'll have to chase him down. Well, it sounds very interesting. And you started this program and designed it, and your colleagues put everything together, and you started when, in 2008?
Well, 2000 is a funny story, and I'll try to make it real short, but in 2008, I went to Costco, and they put nitrogen in my tires. And when I got my car back, I noticed my nice, shiny chrome caps were gone, and they had these green, ugly caps. And I went up to the manager, and I said, "Hey, where'd my chrome caps go?" And he said, "Oh, well, we put nitrogen in your tires." And I said, "What the hell's that?" And he said, "It's a dry inert gas, and it affects your tire life and better gas mileage, and it's better for your tires." And he says, "We put them in all the tires you buy at Costco." So he says, "You got to come back in 45 days, and we refill your tires up with nitrogen." I said, "I can't put air in." He goes, "Oh, you can put air in, but you want to keep the nitrogen level around 94%. So 45 days goes by, and I happen to have my building not too far from there. So I went there, and I sat there for 45 minutes waiting for nitrogen. So I went up to the manager, and I said, "Hey, where's this nitrogen gas coming from, and where's the portable machine?" He goes, "Oh, we don't have a portable machine." And I said, "Can I see this system?" And I said, "I build equipment. I've designed a lot of equipment in my life." And he says, "Yeah, I'll take you back there. You can look. You got to be really quick." So I looked at this system, and it was like 20 feet long. It had a compressor, a dryer, and filters, and all kinds of stuff. So I went home that night, and I looked on the internet on what nitrogen was and how to make nitrogen. In 6 months, I invented the very first portable machine.
What took you so long?
I have no idea. I'm not an engineer. I played baseball.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that they put nitrogen in most of the Indy cars, but I didn't realize that you have something even better.
Well, the teams have been doing it for 75 years, but the way they're doing it is that they're basically taking a nitrogen bottle, and they let all the air out of the tires, and then they fill them up with nitrogen, and then they let the air out, and they fill them back up. And they're doing the best they can with what they know, but they're not consistent enough, and they don't know. I mean, it actually does take about 45 minutes to do 4 tires, and then you're still not going to be consistent because did you put nitrogen in for 20 seconds? Did you put it in for 30 seconds? Unless you sit there and time the whole thing out. So we actually wrote a program. We first came and saw the program, and I think Ed and I were up to about 2 o'clock in the morning, our first test at Indy in 2016. And he wrote the program by 7 o'clock that morning, and we installed it. And we do all the tires now in 10 minutes.
And Zach Brown says, "We want this." And Fernando says, "We want this."
Yeah, they do. I mean, the teams are starting to see it, and thank God we're getting some recognition. And, we're here to solve some solutions. And all the engineers, I mean, they want to take that variable out. I mean, if I told you I can give you, all the data and be consistent, like today we did 5 tires in, I think, maybe 2 hours just by the time going back, and we've turned in the tire guys. We're getting bought. I broke my 2 toes this morning.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting the nitrogen bottles. The bill fell off the rack and landed right on my 2 toes. And I haven't been to the doctors yet. It's killing me. But this is, I get to put this down as my experiences, not strapping down a nitrogen bottle.
Well, you can talk to Dr. Schumann. He'll help you out.
Yeah. Well, I got to meet John Martin just before we came in, and he had his own technology back in the day. He did his own studies and knew how much air to put in and how to heat the tires, and he was kind of hiding things from other drivers the way he would heat his tires up. But he took his own technology and he perfected it the way he wanted to. So we've done a lot of testing, we've done a lot of hours, we've done a lot of traveling, and we really love this system. It's turned out to be pretty nice. And the other thing was we built a larger system that weighed 220 pounds and it stands about 48 inches tall. And then the last Indy race, I think it was 2016, the guys were complaining, well, I'd buy that system, but it won't fit in my truck. So Bob also not being as much as in racing as he was, he also designed all the custom cases for Fender. And he says, hey, I can design a case. Let's make this thing smaller. So we just took the brains and the compression part of it and all the technology, put it in a small head. Now it fits in a box that's 18 inches long by 24 inches tall, and it rolls, and it fits in a little suitcase. So we build what people want.
Well, listen, I have a Lipschitz guitar. Could you kind of help me out with something for that? Well, I find that interesting, and of course, should Fernando win the race, and he could very well have when he was here in 2017, you're going to be so famous, you'll have people lined up at the door. Can I get nitrogen in my tires?
Yeah, well, we're hoping for the best, and he's going to have the best chance with the tires that he's going to have on his cars. We did all sets of his tires with 100% of nitrogen.
I saw Chuck, the photographer that he is, semi-professional, sent me pictures of you guys. He didn't show me the toe broken, but guys working on filling the tires. Listen, it was interesting. I don't know how many people knew about this. I know Howdy's still awake, so he didn't know it, I'm sure. But thanks for stopping by.
No, I appreciate the opportunity, and it's just something that Chuck texted me today and said, hey, would you like to do a podcast? And I said, sure. So, and you've got a fantastic show, and I didn't have the same attire as, the other,
Neither
Mark.
do I. Neither do I.
I came straight from the track, so I didn't have a sport coat.
Broken foot and all. I got to ask you something really important. How the hell did you meet Chuck?
Today. I have a friend of mine who lives in Bloomington that met me back in 2010 in California, and he was part of an investment group that I met, and he lives here, and I guess Chuck and him are friends, and he asked me if I was interested in doing a podcast.
Chuck and here, friends. I thought I was Chuck's only friend, and he doesn't talk to me.
Yeah, so we're a small company out of, like I said, Santa Ana, California, and we design for Karma Automotive. We design for Toyota Corporation. I invented the very first brake fluid exchange machine that one technician can remove all the brake fluid out of your car in 4 minutes. So
How long does it take to put it back in?
The whole thing.
Oh, the whole thing's changed all in 4 minutes?
Puts all brand new brake fluid in your car and pushes it through the wheel cylinders and bleeds the wheels in 4 minutes.
And it's $140.
Huh?
$140 for 4 minutes work.
Yeah, that's $12.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you for stopping by. Certainly something I didn't know, and I don't know how many you did, but I know I did, which doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Joe Lentini, if you see JDL, that's him, out at the track. Try if you can see if you can sniff a little nitro. Ooh. All right. I want to remind you, there's was trying to set a world record for car washes on the 27th in the afternoon. That's Saturday. So you go down there, get your car washed, you come here to see the Beep Line play, and don't miss it. I'm telling you, these guys are good. But after the 27th, Napa is having a car show, and they're trying to set a world record for the most cars done in 8 hours. So you go on out to Plainfield, and it's at 2601 Stout Heritage Parkway in Plainfield. And from 1 to 3, the 2016 winner of the 100th 500, Alexander Rossi, will be there. So if you want to go out and see him and get your car washed, take at it. Next week we'll be here. My scheduled guest as of this minute will be the president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mr. Doug Bowles. Till next week, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Till next week, good night. Oh, by the way, if you're looking to get your car restored, you got a restoration project you'd like to have handled, Grant King's Shops can handle it. They're at 8155 Crawfordsville Road, right next to the old A.J. Watson shop. You're doing a restoration job on a car, take it down to them, and I'll take care of it for you. Thanks, good night. And if you go see Beep Line, don't ask Phil for his autograph.